Hello friends and welcome to Zentangle 66. Just as a reminder, we do have live class again next Thursday. Don't even know what day it is. So for the first one, I'm going to draw a box. I recommend that you keep some sort of square type shape. You could certainly be a rebel and draw a round one. That's totally fine. We're going to divide this into a grid. So we're just going to do mine are about a ½ inch or so, ½ inch spacing between the rows here. And then I'm going to turn my paper and do the spacing the same in the other direction. So you should have a square grid basically. Now I'm going to do kind of a checkerboard pattern with this section here. So I'm just going to pick the second one here. From the midpoint to the right side edge, I'm going to draw a straight line. So that's going to be the same all the way across the row, skipping one in between. I'm going to go back up to the top row, and I'm going to stagger where I now draw these lines. So you can see that they're in the opposite ones as the row below. So now I'm going to just basically repeat this same pattern. So I have 3 in one row and 4 in the other, and that all starts at the halfway point and goes to the right side line. Now we're going to add a triangle on to the end of each line. So we're just going to draw a diagonal line in from the left side 2 points, and then you're eventually going to color them in. I'm just going to color this one right now to show you what it will look like, or what kind of goal you want to achieve with these. I'm just going to finish drawing all the rest of the triangles, and then I'm going to go back and color them in when I'm all finished. I'm going to switch over to my pencil, and the top section of this separated section here to the right of the triangle, I'm going to shade that. And I'm going to shade it relatively dark. So what you want to do is you want to push relatively hard with your pencil. I mean, you don't want it so dark that it looks black. It should not look black. It should just look like a dark gray color. You're just going to kind of push right on the line, and if you want to, you can sort of lift your pencil a little bit as you get to this outside or top edge. That's fine, or you can just have it all be one solid color. As you can see, I'm going back to erase the little edges. I'm kind of a particular shader, so when I shade in a straight line and I don't smudge it at all, I don't really like to see a lot of variation in my pencil shading, so you may not have to go back and erase the lines on the sides or the top. Just make sure that the full box, the one that's whole, is clean of pencil lines when you're all finished. Now I'm going to start shading in the larger section. All the bottom ones of that section are going to be white, so you just want to leave those white. But these whole squares, I'm going to lightly shade these. I don't want it so light that it looks white. It should not look white. You should be able to see the difference between the white squares and these lightly shaded ones. So these should be lighter than the other shading we did, but not white. So you can use whatever type of shading, whatever value you wish to use. And then if you go back over it and smudge it with your finger, that kind of just gets rid of some of the pencil lines, makes it look a little bit softer. But that's completely optional. If you don't want to touch the graphite, that's just fine. You don't have to. Or they have those pencil smudgers that you can use. I'm not sure what it's called. It's got a weird name, starts with a T. But those artist pencil smudgers you can use so you don't get your finger dirty. Or if push comes to shove, you can just get a Q-tip and you can lightly, blend your pencil that way too. Just be careful with the Q-tip if you're using a little bit thicker or bumpier paper, because it will kind of flake off or shred the paper. I'm going to go back now and just smudge all the ones that I did. It just kind of helps give it a little bit more of a consistent shadow or value, for the rest of what you've shaded. It is optional again, though. Just don't forget that. You don't have to do it. The only thing that you want to make sure is now that I have all of my my whole squares filled, I still want to be able to notice the difference between this and the white section. So if you can't really tell, you should go back over and shade them a little bit darker. Now, because I smudged all of my sections, I'm going to go back over the areas that are supposed to be left white and remove any little bits of pencil smudges from those sections, because again, I want those to be completely white. So you can see this optical illusion kind of makes it look like these pieces kind of cave in. So some of the squares are solid and some of the squares cave in. So that black area is going to be the darkest shading, so it's the furthest away from the light. It's like a flat piece here, and then it looks like it caves in and goes to the next piece. It's kind of a cool little optical illusion. So now we're going to go on to the second one. I'm going to use my pen again. I'm just going to draw another box. I do recommend that you draw squares for this one, or something that at least has right angles on it, because this one is a quad design, so that means it takes 4 square sections to create. So I'm actually going to divide this square into 4 rows and 4 columns. So you can kind of start out in the halfway point, or you can just eyeball it like I'm doing. You can draw the half line first and then go back and fill the other 2, or just hope you get lucky. So then I'm going to turn my paper and do the same thing going vertically. So again, these should be relatively square. Mine are not going to be 100% because my side line is not very straight, but just get kind of close. This one's a little skinny, but that's alright. I'll make it work. So now this is going to be a quad design. So these 4 here, and these 4, and the bottom 4, and these left bottom 4 are all part of one pattern. So I'm going to go through my 4 squares here, and then I'm going to go through the next one. So it's going to be a big X going diagonally and then going diagonally this way. So mine is off a little bit. It's not going to line up in the corner because my last row isn't completely square. So I'm going to draw a diagonal line here. I'm going to draw a diagonal line here. And now I'm going to make a V shape out of these 2. So it goes down and then up. And the same thing from the side over here to the center, and then back out to the outside, and then from the bottom to the center, and then from this one I already drew, but you just draw the other one. So you should have an X and then 4 V's on each side. So it kind of makes like a quilt section. So I'm going to work on this top quad here, and I'm going to draw 3 scallops on one side of the line, and then go back and draw 3 scallops on the other side. So basically you're making 3 conjoined like little bulbs. They should be kind of evenly spaced. And if you're not going to evenly space them, then be consistent with all of them. So if you want to draw one large one right in the center, oops, that one's off. If you want to draw one large one right in the center, that's just fine, but be consistent on all of those lines. So I'm just going to work in this one quad, with all of my scallops on, and show you what this design is going to look like. So now from the center point, or excuse me, from the outside point to each side of the center scallop, you're going to draw a triangle. So you're going to do that in the same direction on all of these. There is only one direction you can draw them, so it's not that you can mess it up. And then one more square here. So I'm going to draw, you should kind of see like, kind of looks like a weird little spaceship. Okay? So now in the wedge pieces of each of the triangles, you can either draw straight lines or you can arch them slightly. You can have far spacing or you can have close, it's up to you. You just want to fill the wedge with something, so you can use dots or you can color it in completely black, it's up to you. that's the basic design there. So now in this bottom, so I work in the top quad, and now I'm going to go down to the bottom right quad and do exactly the same thing, because these 4 down here go in the exact same direction as the 4 we just drew. So I do the top quad and the bottom quad on the left and right, just like shown here. And then we'll switch and do the other ones because those go in a different direction. So now we're going to turn the paper, or we're going to work in the other direction. So you can see that these lines go the other way, so you're going to just basically repeat the exact same steps we just did, and the other quad's only going the other direction. You can make an entire grid of these things going in exactly the same direction, but you're not going to get the kaleidoscope type look that we have in this optical drawing here, optical illusion drawing that you can see on the left, of course. So you can certainly play with, you can switch and do one whole row one way, another row another way, and it'll give you a completely different look. But just beware, if you want this kaleidoscope type look, you have to have at least, if let's say you only have 4 boxes, you have to have them all going in different directions, otherwise it won't make that pattern. That looks really good. So after this, we're going to add the little detail. Basically, it's outline. Okay, so I'm just going to pick the top quad. It doesn't matter which section you start in. But in all of the white spaces, you're basically just going to outline the shape. So from these edge ones, you're just going to have a little teeny tiny wedge. When you get to this bigger section, you're going to go from line to the scallop, to the line, down the edge, and back around the scallop. So you can see it a little bit closer on the left on the enlarged photo. You always should stop at the line. So you should have it touch here and touch there, and then it kind of goes around the scallop however you want that to. So you're just going to outline each box to kind of create this little, well, I guess it's an outline. So that's what you're going to do. So I'm going to switch over to my pencil. This part is optional, so you can see the kaleidoscope there that you've drawn, and then we're going to work in the white space. And this is only because if you leave it completely white, it just sort of gets lost. So you want to have something in this little spot, whether you completely color it in black or you solid color it with a pencil or some sort of gray marker and have it completely solid, that's just fine too. So half of the kaleidoscope here, I'm just going to do some shading. So how I'm shading this is right in the peaks or the little corners of this outline. This is on the inside. So it leaves that white rim around this weird spaceship shape, but it puts the pencil line in like the inside of this little box. So anyway, what I do is in the corners or the points of this little shape is where I put the heaviest amount of pencil shading, and then I sort of just run a thin line along each of the edges. You can shade however you wish. If you wanted to have it be really dark and just kind of be a little bit lighter in the middle, that's fine. Again, if you just want to use a marker, color it in black or color it in gray or add some other color, that's fine too. So I'm going to do half of it the shading, and then I'm just going to color in a couple of them solid so you can see what it looks like. So in this bottom right corner, I'm just going to color in a couple of them completely solid gray. So you can make it that again as dark as you wish, or you can leave it white, I guess, if you want to. But it loses a little something if it doesn't have something in these little spots, at least in my non-professional opinion. Don't forget to go back and erase any of the outside edges if you have any of that. Now we're going to go on to the third one here. And I'm just going to zoom in a little differently so you can see the bottom. So this one's a little weird. This is an optical illusion. It's like an infinity oval. So what you want to start with is a cat eye. So we're going to draw one nice loop around the left and one nice loop matching it as much as possible on the right. So you can see it's like a vertical cat eye shape. Okay? So on the top, you're going to go up maybe about 3/4 of an inch. You can make this as big as you'd like, but don't go too puny. And just put a little mark there. That's kind of your guide mark. And do the same thing on the bottom. So now we're going to start at the bottom point, and we are going to draw a line, an arched line. Try to keep it as evenly spaced as possible, and go up to the top line here, and try to hit that mark. It's pretty hard to do it, and I just realized that that is not correct at all. So scratch everything I just said. Don't use that, don't use that, don't use that. So the cat eye part is correct. We're just going to go ahead and draw another one I'm going to switch to my pencil. Sorry about that. I'm going to draw really hard with my pencil so you can see it better on the video. If you are going to use pencil, be sure to draw lightly so that you can erase it when you're done. So, sorry about that. Get back on track here. Okay, so you still have your guide point at the top and your guide point at the bottom that are evenly spaced right off of there. You're going to start from the bottom point. That's where I messed up. On the bottom point of the oval, go to the left, and as you get to the top, it's going to be thick. So you can see it starts off skinny and it gets wider. You do the same thing in the opposite direction. So from the top point, start out skinny, come down and around and get larger as you go to the bottom. You want to try and keep your spacing the same as what you have on the other side. So you don't want to get too large too fast. You want to keep it a gradual increase. So now we're going to start at the bottom point and end up at the top. So this is supposed to look completely circular. Mine obviously is not 100%, but you can practice. So it should close the loop. So now we're going to go from the top down to the bottom. All the way down, keep your spacing the same, and you're going to gradually get thinner and thinner and thinner, and thinner and thinner and thinner until you get right on that bottom line, and it's the same for the other side. So this is what creates that infinity type of circle, but it's an optical illusion because it sort of twists. It looks like it should be, you should see an end, I guess, but it doesn't do it. It's very cool. So it's basically a swirl. So you can see as I'm drawing it in the pen how it actually is if I don't mess it up too much here. So again, this bottom point should be a little bit more circular, but I'm not going to beat myself up over that since I already messed up once. And it should dive right into the top line. Okay. Now I'm going to go the other way, and you can see it's basically just two swirls together that meet at the end points. Come back down and around. Try to keep your spacing the same again. Of course, I'm just tracing my pencil lines so I can tweak it just a little bit. All right, so now I'm going to go back and erase all of the pencil lines that I have on here. Alright, so now we're going to do the last step, which is going to be to add the shading. And I'm going to kind of do it right where it tucks in or behind itself. So I'm going to start on the top, and I'm going to come straight across from that top point and just do straight line shading. So it should be horizontal shading from line to line only on this outside rim. It's going to be very dark at the top, and it's going to fade. So my shading probably comes down about an inch, inch and a half, something to that effect. And it's a little bit darker at the top, and then it fades out. I'm going to do the same thing under my loop. So anywhere it gets skinny like this, where it kind of creates that point, you're going to do a shading area. So again, you can make them as dark of shading as you like. Don't be afraid of shading, of course. Make it dark, or add a little bit, and then go back and add a little bit more. You can use your finger and kind of smudge it down. Kind of helps create really nice shading line. And do the same thing on the bottom. And then one more shading area on the very bottom here, kind of tucked underneath. Mine isn't completely ovular. So I'm going to pretend it is. And we're just going to put a little bit of shading at the bottom in the same way that we did in the other three sections. So you can add more designs to this if you wish. You can put a little Zentangle pattern in the center. You can do anything cool like that. You know, this could be part of your actual pattern and you can Zentangle around it. It's up to you. But this is a kind of a neat infinity type of optical illusion. So that's the third pattern for today. You can see it kind of swirls, but it looks like it should keep going, but it doesn't. It's cool. So anyway, I hope you liked these optical illusion / kaleidoscope type designs for today. We do have live class again next Thursday from 6:30 to 7:30. If you wish to join us. Otherwise, we will be doing a virtual class as well. So you can always meet here on Thursdays for the virtual videos or in the library twice a month. I hope that you're doing well. I hope you're having a great week, and I will be here again next Thursday. I hope you will be too. Have a great day.